We have an extraordinary guest, Oleksandr Turchynov. He was Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine from 2007 to 2010, then served as Prime Minister of Ukraine. On February 22, 2014, he became the chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Since February 23, 2014, he served by the decision of the Parliament temporarily as President of Ukraine, then appointed as Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. He is currently serving in territorial defense. He holds a doctorate in economic sciences. Before the war, he worked in the cybersecurity department of the Institute of Telecommunications and Global Information Space. Mr. Turchynov was also a pastor of an evangelical Baptist church. Welcome very warmly to our television. Hello. First of all, I would like to convey to you from myself, from our entire editorial staff, from all our viewers, our sympathy, but also our highest respect for your heroic fight against the invaders. We are praying for you. As Poles, we are also prepared to support Ukraine in the long term. Thank you. To begin with a general question, what factors caused such an unusual and courageous resistance of the Ukrainian people? The enemy came to our home. The enemy came to our country to destroy it, to destroy our freedom, our independence. However, it is not enough to want to defeat the enemy, but you need to know how to do it professionally. I would like to remind you that the war in Ukraine has been going on for more than 8 years. 8 years ago, it was I who made the decision to launch an anti-terrorist operation in Donbas, in the east of Ukraine, to prevent the aggression of the Russian Federation. At that time, many Ukrainians took part in the fighting. At the beginning of the Russian aggression, we had more than 200,000 reservists, professional soldiers with experience, who participated in hostilities. As many people who did not have such experience became involved in hostilities during those 8 years and also received appropriate training during maneuvers, but also at the front. So we have a large human resource today. We have people who are trained and ready to resist an aggressor. The most important thing is that in 2014, when everything started, Ukraine's army was in a very bad state. The infrastructure was destroyed from the inside. Everything had been stolen and destroyed by enemy agents over the years. Since then, however, we have built a strong modern military that is now, in my opinion, one of the best in Europe. Our efforts have also led to the revival of the military industry. We are building military vehicles, tanks and other weapons. The whole world, all of Europe, is looking at Mariupol. It is very loud about it. It is a symbol of Ukraine's heroism. Will it be possible to save the heroic defenders? Unfortunately, Mariupol is totally surrounded. The situation is very difficult and I cannot predict how it will develop. In addition to the military, there are civilians in besieged Mariupol who are hiding in their homes, basements and shelters. They cannot escape from the surrounded city. The Russians are dropping hundreds of thousands of bombs. They are shelling the city where there is ongoing resistance against the Russian aggressors. Russia wants to literally raze the city to the ground and kill everyone, military and civilians, who refuse to surrender. How do you foresee the war developing further? It was said that this biggest battle in Donbas has started. Now there is information that it is only a military test. How do you think this war will develop further? The fate of our country is just being decided in the east and in the south of Ukraine. In the east, in the Donbas, and in the south, in the Mykolaiv, Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. The further development of the war in Ukraine will be decided.
далі буде розгортатись, скажімо, війна в Україні.
I hope that we will be able to defend these places, just as we defended Kiev, Chernihiv, or Sumy, that broke the back of the Russian army. Our goal is to endure and to prevail. This is what it will look like in the near future. Once again, I stress that the fate of Ukraine is being decided here, in the east and in the south of the country. I want to ask about the leaders of Europe, especially Western Europe. We know how Germany behaves, how all the time it does not want to impose sanctions on Russia, does not want to transfer heavy equipment. We also know how France has behaved. How do you think the political world should change after the war? I would like to remind you that everything started in 2014. At that time, I was addressing our partners, strategic partners, in the US and in Europe. I said that the aggression that began then was not an aggression against Ukraine, but against the entire civilized world. I appealed then to our partners for help, but unfortunately, we did not get it. In 2014, the situation was much worse than it is now. We didn't have trained soldiers, we didn't have a strong military, we didn't have ammunition, helmets, bulletproof vests, we didn't even always have uniforms for the soldiers. At that time, I asked the West for help, to provide us with the things we needed, to sell us, but we received nothing from them, not a single bullet. They didn't even give us helmets or vests in 2014. At the time they said that if they provided us with something, they would irritate Russia. They didn't want to do that, hoping that Russia would calm down and stop. But that was when the time was right to break Russia and support Ukraine. Because it wasn't done in 2014, the spiral of aggression, the spiral of warfare spun and led to a war of this magnitude in 2022. Before 2019, the European Union completely banned the supply of weapons to Ukraine. But this year, on February 24, everything changed. When Russia started an aggressive war in Ukraine, then many countries, our partners in the West, changed their attitude to what is happening, and the supply of arms and ammunition started. We are very grateful to our partners for that. Once again, I would like to emphasize that the war Russia is waging is not a war only against Ukraine, but against all civilized Europe. Russia aims to destroy the architecture of peace that was built in Europe after World War II. Ukraine is therefore not only defending itself, it is defending the European Union and the entire civilized world. If only for this reason, our partners, France, Germany, and other partner countries should cooperate with Ukraine. They should provide us with ammunition and armaments, especially heavy weapons, to help Ukraine defeat Russia. We are able to win on the battlefield because we have faith and trust in our strength. And most importantly, God is with us. And if God is with us, then there is no such enemy that we could not defeat. I'd like to ask you about faith, about God, because I know that you are a Baptist, you are a pastor. In Poland, among evangelical Christians, there is a prevailing conviction that a Christian should not get involved in politics. What do you think about it? Why did you decide to get involved in politics? The Russians call me the bloody pastor. But now I do not serve as pastor, although I preach, I am a preacher. But to be a pastor, you have to completely sacrifice yourself, reject all other activities. In Ukraine and other countries, many Protestants also thought that politics is dirty and not worth dealing with. Dirty politics is done by dirty people. But if dirty people don't deal with it, it won't be dirty. I think Christians even have a duty to participate in politics, to clean it up, because when you act for a good cause, then God is with you. And when politics has God's blessing, a country has God's blessing, then that land will always be victorious and flourishing. Politics will be pure if it is done by pure people. That is why I always encourage Christians, go and deal with important issues. And politics, honest politics, clean politics, is a very important issue. Do you connect these spiritual issues, for example, the fact that there are so many evangelical Christians in Ukraine, with such a moral strength of the Ukrainian people that no one expected? Where is this moral strength of the Ukrainian people that we are seeing now coming from? It's very important that people don't simply go to their deaths, but that they understand that when they give their lives, they are expressing the highest level of love. That's what the Bible says. There are many strong believers among Ukrainians. A true believer is not afraid of death, because he knows that he has eternal life. And a true believer is more courageous and also more responsible. I am convinced that now many people turn to God, being influenced by the circumstances. I have seen soldiers before going into battle, when they take risks, when they face the risk of death. Then they turn to God. And this is the normal human behavior. Finally, I wanted to ask you what help Ukraine needs most now, from Poland and from the world. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our Polish brothers and sisters, our Polish friends, for the real help they have been giving us. It's political help, a strong pro-Ukrainian stance in the European Union. It's also military aid, and of course, it's help for our wives and children who have been forced to flee Ukraine to save their lives. We know how many of our people are now in Poland, and we know how much help they have received, both from Poland and other European countries. And for all this, we sincerely thank you. In terms of the support that Ukraine needs right now, obviously the most important thing is military support. This is very important because much of our military infrastructure has been destroyed by Russian Air Force and missiles. Therefore, we are very much dependent on military support. Poland is helping us a lot in this matter by providing assistance and convincing other European countries to do the same. Mr. President, thank you very much for our conversation, for this interview. I also hope that you will be able to convince the West to provide more support and you will win this war. Also, please pass on our support, our prayers to all of you. We are praying for you. You personally are also an example, an inspiration, an encouragement for us to live a truly Christian, courageous life. So once again, thank you very much for the interview. Thank you. Truth is with us, faith is with us, God is with us, and victory will be with us too. Thank you very much.
Sława Ukrainie i mam nadzieję,
Героям
że
слава!
Yes, sir. I hope to hear from you. Our guest was Oleksandr Turchynov, former acting president of Ukraine.